a little bit more careful and maybe I signed fewer of them, right? So we are in fact in participating in a similar power dynamic to the cult, but what's so fascinating is to get people to recreate that dynamic as a form of in the guise of a form of protest. Like there's something so fucked up and ironic about that. So maybe describe. I think I have more. I have more sort of observations and follow-ups to the kind of meta critique. But I think it might be interesting to talk about the specific sort of pain and power dynamics that were actually occurring and how those shifted and what like an experience of, say, from initiation to sort of full indoctrination to how those things shifted and what was actually happening to people inside this.
Well, we could hew to, Matthew's account, which is central in the story. So, the organization starts out as an organization called Temple, which operates primarily online and kind of resembles in some ways a kind of informal creative pyramid scheme where people post content related to the themes of the group, and they'll include it with PayPal links. And then there's, if donations are made for the content, the person who made the post keeps some, and then some of the money goes to the organization. Then there are a lot of interesting parallels in the kind of incessant push for content. A lot of interesting parallels between how in the outside world content creators like their experiences, working at a media company where you have just like higher and higher quotas of output and and where you're afraid you'll lose your job if you don't hit the quota. There is parallels with how that functioned in the group. And so anyway, there reaches a point after the Daily Dot article comes out where there is a pivot. Temple still exists as an entity, but the main focus of the organization is going to be Day Life Army, which is a self-described military that is run. The big boss of the group is Koa, and that distinguishes itself both from having a bit more of a pronounced political bent, I'd say, and then also an IRL in-person organization.
Okay, so I want to drill down a little bit deeper than that. I don't want to be too salacious because I have a moral problem with critiques of fucked up behavior that then read as almost like these bodice rippers. In the way that a lot of the sort of Me Too stories ended up being played out and circulated on the internet. Like, I was really suspicious of the type of reader and the type of traffic it was getting. So I'm careful not to be doing that here, but I do think specifics are important in terms of what do you mean by punishment? What deserved punishment? Who meted that out? What were the rules they had to go by, maybe as clinically as possible, because again, I don't want to make this titillating, but I do think it's important to get a little bit of details just to draw a picture of what the experience was like.
I'd say that the pain matrix versus pleasure matrix rhetoric ramps up. It is there is this like idea of washing your money, which has emerged, which is that your money is dirty. It is grounded in racism and exploitation. You need to wash the money, quote, or give the money to the organization to so that COA can quote unquote clean the money. And it becomes this idea of you are going to give all of your assets to a Black woman, which is often the rhetoric that is used, that we are, if you want to create a genuinely new world, you need to give everything you have to this woman who is going to build a new society that doesn't have the same problems as the society that you left.
Right. Wait. Not to throw you off, but just a weird like shiver went down my spine a little bit, which is like, and these aren't the same things, but it just reminded me of clicking the like send button on like a donation to the Bernie Sanders campaign, right? Where there's a charismatic leader who promises that with more money we can change the problem of money. And I'm not criticizing Bernie Sanders as a candidate. I still wish he was running, but that the dangers of those lines and how those can get blurred, especially when we are always locked inside this capitalist system that hits our lives no matter what, and then on top of it, the rhetoric of social justice being sort of muddied into it reminds me of a lot of things that do good work, but also have sort of there's bad actors inside of all of those movements.
Yeah, totally, and I definitely, we were working on this story during the height of, Bernie's campaign, which is, no longer a thing in the way that it was. Mm-hmm. And, I will say that I am, I am a Bernie supporter personally.
Sure, I gave him a bunch of money. I am too, but it did, the echo of that was chilling.
But there was a moment when I started kind of getting very sucked into the online rhetoric around the campaign, and where he does spell out this very like kind of concrete vision of society, mm-hmm. Where I almost got to the point where I understood what it could be like to get indoctrinated into a political cult. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that he is a cult leader.
Right.
But I think the internet fosters this dynamic, one that that this organization plays into of, good, like, here's like a kind of simple explanation of reality. This is good versus bad. And started finding myself like experiencing like real anger when, Bernie was under attack.
Right.
Or something.
Right.
Or they did this to Bernie.
Right.
And then feeling this like incredible rage. And then I realized that was, I don't know, like I just realized, oh my God, I'm getting too swept up in this kind of like simplified, this simplified vision of the world.
Right.
And that's kind of what this group provides, even though the rhetoric is very complex and changing. But
right. Well, the thing about cults is that unlike Bernie, like I think one of the main distinguishing factors is, although I 100% feel everything you said about those lines in what it felt like to support the Sanders campaign in that moment and to be online and to find yourself in that blurred space that that starts to feel uncomfortable. In a cult, there's no really end. There's no there really if you start to dig through the language. Where with Sanders, and I think this is a key distinguishing factor, there were actually plans to like that could be enacted in real time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly, and it is I think it's parallel just to the extent that, you can see how somebody can be kind of swept into a worldview on the internet, and sort of binary thinking,
and
which is very characteristic of cults.
Absolutely, and I want you to. I don't want to interrupt you because I want you to speak to that more. But just to sort of put another coin in the meter, I think this issue of binary thinking is a much larger topic in terms of our rhetoric around most topics right now, where nuance is getting lost in these fights that the mob wins, where like you're either totally within the confines of a single ideology or you're not participating in the movement at all.
Yes, right. I'd like to have Lou. Hey, Lou, you get me Mandel's office?
Yeah.
All right, listen, I want to comment about that semi-appointment, right? Right away, Lou. Right away.
How's it going? What are you doing? Polishing. You what? Polishing.
What's wrong with it?
Nothing. It's good.
Then what are you doing with it?
I'm just helping. It's a little fuzzy.
May I have it?
I don't think you're saying what you mean.
I know exactly what I mean.
Not here. I can't tell from this whether Hunt works for Colson or Colson works for Hunt.
May I have it,
And
please?
some of your conclusions
May I
aren't
have
clear.
it?
Yes, I'm not looking for a fight.
I'm not looking for a fight either.
I'm just aware of the fact that you've only been here 9 months.
What has that got to do with anything?
Well, I've been in the business since I'm 16.
What are you saying?
Well, I'm trying to tell you that if you'd read mine and then read yours...
May I read yours?
Yeah. I walked by, gave yours a glance. It didn't look right, so I just figured I'd refine it a little. That first paragraph has to have more clarity. The reader's going to understand it. You don't mention Colson's name to the third paragraph. I think mine's better, but you go ahead and read it. If you think yours is better, we'll give yours to the desk. I've got Colson's name up front. He was a White House consultant, and nobody knows
Right.
it.
Yours is better. If you're gonna do it right. Here are my notes. If you're gonna hype it with the facts. I don't mind what you did. I mind the way you did it.
Woodward, Bernstein, you're both on the story. Now don't fuck it up.
Totally. And within this organization, it became, you were either, I think this is like what we say in the story, you are either part of the pain matrix, aka part of the problem, this very exploitative society that is built on racism, or you can say no to that and drop out and help COA and this organization build the so-called pleasure matrix. So that becomes the, that's like the central motif of what it means to join the organization. And it took the form initially of a real-life community that Matthew says he joined in September of 2017 initially. It was at a cabin, or his first experience was at this cabin in Washington where he lived with another member. And then the story sort of traces his journey and the group's journey from this initial starting place around the West Coast, the Southwest. He begins in Washington. They go to Spokane. They go to Southern California. They go to Vegas and then Phoenix, and they're bopping around from Airbnb to Airbnb, hotel, etc. They are spending most of their days cleaning, which is a common thing that happens inside of cults.